Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Cha Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Diriye. Nashtuprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavate Sevaya. Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistike. So continuing with the discussion on Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 13, The Stealing of the Boys and Calves by Brahma. Text 53 onwards. Kala Svabhava Sanskara Kama Karma Gunadibhi Swamahidvasta Mahibhir Murtim Adbhir Upasita. Then Lord Brahma saw that Kal, the time factor, Svabhav, one's own nature by association, Sanskar, or affirmation, Kam, desire, Karma, fruitive activity, and the Guna, the three modes of material nature, their own independence being completely subordinate to the potency of the Lord, had all taken forms and were also worshipping those Vishnu Murtis. So everything has a form. Kal, Svabhav, Sanskar, Kama, Karma, Gunas. We only think these are the qualities, but they have a form. No one but Vishnu has any independence. If we develop consciousness of this fact, then we are in actual Krishna consciousness. We should always remember that Krishna is the only supreme master and that everyone else is a servant. Ekala Ishvara Krishna Arsa Bhritya. Be one, even Narayan or Lord Shiva. Everyone is subordinate to Krishna. Shiva Virinchi Rutam. Even Baldev is subordinate to Krishna. This is a fact. Ekala Ishvara Krishna Arsa Bhritya. Yara Yecha Nachaye Setaiche Kare Nritya. One should understand that no one is independent, for everything is part and parcel of Krishna and is acting and moving by the supreme desire of Krishna. This understanding, this consciousness is Krishna consciousness. It's hard to come to this level of understanding because we think I can make some changes. I can change the world, I can change the person. I cannot even actually change myself, to speak of changing the world. Of course, in whatever is the right thing, dharmic thing that we should do, but understanding actually everything is controlled by Krishna. He is everywhere. Everything is under his control. Yastu Narayanam Devam Brahma Rudradi Devate. A person who considers demigods like Brahma and Shiva to be on an equal level with Narayan must certainly be considered an offender. No one can compare to Narayan or Krishna. Krishna is Narayan and Narayan is also Krishna, for Krishna is the original Narayan. Brahma himself addressed Krishna, Narayanas tam nahi sarvadehina. You are also Narayan. Indeed, you are the original Narayan. So this he will speak in the next chapter. Kal, or the time factor, has many assistants such as Svabhav, Sanskar, Kam, Karma, and Guna. Svabhav, or one's own nature, is formed according to the association of the material qualities. Karnam Guna Sangvasya. One's higher or lower nature is formed by the association with the different qualities, namely Sattvagun, Rajagun, and Tamagun. We should gradually come to the Sattvagun so that we may enjoy the two lower gunas. This can be done if we regularly discuss Srimad Bhagavatam and hear about Krishna's activities. Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu. All the activities of Krishna described in Srimad Bhagavatam, beginning even with the pastimes concerning Putna, are transcendental. Therefore, by hearing and discussing Srimad Bhagavatam, the Rajagun, Tamagun are subdued, so that only Sattvagun remains. But this is material, Rajagun, Tamagun. Then Raju and Tamagun cannot do us any harm. Which means continuously, gradually we discuss Krishna Katha, chant Krishna's name, we do Krishna Seva, then we are okay. Varnashram dharma, therefore, is essential, for it can bring people to Sattvagun, tada rajastamo bhava. Tamagun and Rajagun increases lust and greed, which implicate a living entity in such a way that he must exist in this material world in many, many forms. That's very dangerous. One should therefore be brought to Sattvagun by the establishment of Varnashram Dharma and should develop the Brahminical qualifications of being very neat and clean, rising early in the morning and seeing Mangala Artik and so on. In this way, one should stay in Sattvagun and then one cannot be influenced by Tamagun and Rajagun. So if we associate with people in Sattvagun, do the activities of Sattvagun, read the literature of Sattvagun, will remain in Sattvagun. That's what Prabhupada said, then one cannot be influenced by Tamagun and Rajagun. The opportunity for this purification is a special feature of human life. In other lives, it's not possible. Such purification can be achieved very easily by Radha Krishna bhajan, devotional service rendered to Radha and Krishna. And therefore, Narottam Das Thakur says, Hari Hari Vifule Janam Goain, indicating that unless one worships Radha Krishna, one's human form of life is wasted. By engagement in the service of Vasudeva, one very quickly renounces material life. The members of the Krishna consciousness movement are surprised. The members of Krishna consciousness movement, for example, being engaged in Vasudeva Bhakti, very quickly come to the stage of being nice Vaishnavas, so much so that people are surprised that Malechas and Yavans are able to come to this stage. This is possible by Vasudeva Bhakti. But if we do not come to the stage of Sattvagun in this human life, then as Narottam Das Thakur says, there is no profit in gaining this human form of life. Manusha Janam Paya, Radha Krishna Na Bhajiya, Janiya Sunya Vish Khain. Means knowingly we are drinking wish if we don't worship Radha Krishna in this human form of life. Shri Veera Raghavacharya comments that each of the items mentioned in the first half of this verse is a cause for material entanglement. Kal, or the time factor, agitates the modes of material nature, and Swabhav is the result of association with these modes. Therefore, Narottam Das Thakur says, Bhakta Sanevas. If one associates with Bhaktas, then one's Swabhav or nature will change. Our Krishna consciousness movement is meant to give people good association so that this change may take place. And we actually see that by this method, people all over the world are gradually becoming devotees. As for sanskar or reformation, this is possible by good association. For by good association, one develops good habits. Habit becomes second nature. Therefore, bhakta sanevas, let people have the chance to live with bhaktas, then the habits will change. In the human form of life, one has this chance, but as Narottam Das Thakur sings, if one fails to take advantage of this opportunity, one's human life is wasted. We are therefore trying to save human society from degradation and actually elevate people to the higher nature. And this is the whole purpose of this Krishna consciousness movement that Prabhupada started. To give association, first he gave association and his disciples, and then his disciples further preach and giving association, so more and more people can become Krishna conscious. That's the whole idea. As for karma and karma, desires and activities, if one engages in devotion service, one develops a different nature than if one engages in activities of sense gratification. And of course, the result is also different. According to the association of different natures, one receives a particular type of body. Therefore, we should always seek good association, the association of devotees. Then our life will be successful. A man is known by his company. This is very, very, very well known words, that a man is known by his company or by the association he keeps. If one has a chance to live in the good association of devotees, one is able to cultivate knowledge, and naturally one's character, nature will change for one's eternal benefit. But being in the association, now it's important. Being in the association of devotees means we try to learn from them, or we try to follow their example, how they are doing their sadhana, how they are dealing with others, how they are leading their lives. Not that I am in the association of somebody and I try to give him my association, in the sense that I try to tell him, oh, I'm good at this, I'm very good at this, I have done this, I have done that, I'm so capable, or I'm a victim at this and that. We need to learn. That's all. Satya Jnanananda Ananda Matra Kar Samurtaya Asprishta Bhuri Mahatmya Api Hi Upanishad Drisham. The Vishnu Murtis all had eternal, unlimited forms, full of knowledge and bliss and existing beyond the influence of time. Their great glory was not even to be touched by the Jnanis engaged in studying the Upanishads. So all these Vishnu Murtis that you see behind in the background, they're all the cowherd boys, they just transformed into Vishnu Murtis, and Krishna is sitting in the center, if you can see. Whichever way, I don't know. And this is what Brahmaji saw, and he got completely bewildered. Mere Shastra Jnana, knowledge in the Vedas, does not help anyone understand the personality of Godhead. Only one who is favored or shown mercy by the Lord can understand. This is also explained in the Upanishads. The Supreme Lord is not obtained by expert explanation, by vast intelligence, or even by much hearing. He is obtained only by one whom he himself chooses. To such a person, he manifests his own form. So he himself chooses. It doesn't mean he's just going to decide randomly. He decides based on our surrender. One description given of Brahman is Satya Brahma Ananda Rupam. Brahman is a absolute truth and complete Ananda or bliss. The forms of Vishnu, the Supreme Brahman, were one, but they were manifested differently. The followers of the Upanishads, however, cannot understand the varieties manifested by Brahman. This proves that Brahman and Paramatma can actually be understood only through devotion, as confirmed with the Lord himself in Bhagavatam. Bhaktya Ekaya Viraya. To establish that Brahman indeed has transcendental form, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur gives various quotations from the Shastras. So Brahman, Brahman or Brahmjyoti also is found. In the Shvetashvatar Upanishad, the Supreme is described as Aditya Varnam Tamsa Parastat. He whose self-manifested form is luminous like the sun and transcendental to the darkness of ignorance. And in Brihad Aranyakya Upanishad, he is described as the Supreme is blissful with no tinge of unhappiness. Although he is the oldest, he never ages, and although one, he is experienced in different forms. So all these Upanishads talk about different, or the forms of the Lord, but in different ways they talk about it. And Bhagavatam talks. He is bluish colored boy and wearing peacock feather and playing on his flute. Bhagavatam describes completely differently. Differently in the sense, the real description of the Lord. Upanishads talk about his qualities. All the forms of that Supreme Person are eternal, means he has form. The Supreme Person has a form with hands and legs and other person features, but his hands and legs are not material. Bhaktas know that the form of Krishna Brahman is not at all material. Rather, Brahman has a transcendental form. And when one is absorbed in it, being fully developed in bhakti, one can understand it. Mayavadis, however, cannot understand this transcendental form, for they think that it is material. See, Upanishads, Jnanis try to approach approach Upanishads, study Upanishads, and try to understand the Lord. And when it says, oh, he whose self-manifested form is luminous like the sun and transcendental to the darkness of ignorance. So for them, anyone that we know of, any material person cannot have all these qualities. So what they say, original or the supreme is Brahm Jyoti, and there is some transformation happens in it, and it comes in the form of Krishna and Ram and all this, Narayan and this and that, because ultimate is formless. They cannot understand this. They cannot. Even they say Krishna, the Krishna who came and performed his pastimes in Vrindavan, it's not the ultimate. Although Krishna himself says, Brahm depends upon me, it rests on me. But they go in a roundabout way. It's not Krishna, it's eternal, unborn, unlimited within Krishna that is talking about this or that. And they just do so much of word jugglery, confuse the hell out of people. And this is what we just celebrated Shivratri yesterday. And Lord Shiva, he was saying, oh my Lord, why you want me to go and give this nonsense philosophy? Why me? Don't give me this service. But him being the greatest devotee of the Lord, he gets the most difficult service too. And this was the most difficult. If I could come as Shankaracharya and give this philosophy. The Lord has different ways of taking services from his devotees, I guess. Transcendental forms of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his person are so great that the impersonal followers of the Upanishads cannot reach the platform of knowledge to understand them. Particularly, the transcendental forms of the Lord are beyond the reach of the impersonalists, who can only understand through the studies of the Upanishads that the absolute truth is not matter and that the absolute truth is not materially restricted by limited potency. And here Krishna showed his potencies to Brahmaji. He did not even increase his size, and all these forms came about just by his desire. He didn't have to do anything. And look at three modes of material nature: Mahat Tattva, Kam, Karma, Guna. Everyone in their personal form is worshipping and glorifying these forms of Narayana and of Krishna. And Krishna didn't have to exert himself to do anything, just by his desire. That is opulence, that is potency. And if somebody still says Lord has no form, then what can be done? Yet, although Krishna cannot be seen through the Upanishads, in some places it is said that Krishna in fact be known in this way. Upanishadam Purusham. He is known by the Upanishads. This means that when one is purified by Vedic knowledge, one is then allowed to enter into devotional understanding. The Supreme Lord is not obtained by expert explanations, by vast intelligence, or even by, I think. The seriously inquisitive student or sage, well equipped with knowledge and detachment, realizes that absolute truth by rendering devotion service in terms of what he has heard from the Vedanta Shruti. The word Shruta Grihiteha refers to Vedanta knowledge, not sentimentality. Shruta Grihita is sound knowledge. Lord Vishnu, Brahma, thus realizes the reservoir of all truth, knowledge, and bliss. He is a combination of these three transcendental features, and he is the object of worship for the followers of the Upanishads. Brahma realized that all the different forms of cows, boys, and calves transformed into Vishnu forms were not transformed by mysticism of the type that a yogi or demigod can display by specific powers invested in him. The cows, calves, and boys transformed into Vishnu murtis or Vishnu forms were not displays of Vishnu Maya or Vishnu energy, but were Vishnu himself. So there's a difference. The respective qualifications of Vishnu and Vishnu Maya are just like those of fire and heat. In heat, there is a qualification of fire, namely warmth, and yet heat is not fire. The manifestation of the Vishnu forms of the boys, cows, and calves was not like the heat, but rather like the fire. They were all actually Vishnu. Factually, the qualification of Vishnu is full truth, full knowledge, and full bliss. Another example may be given with material objects, which may be reflected in many forms. For example, sun is reflected in many water pots, but the reflections of the sun in many parts are not actually the same, are not actually the sun. There is no actual heat and light from the sun in the pot, although it appears as a sun. But each and every one of the forms Krishna assumed was fully Vishnu. Or sometimes people try to give example of watching a TV. So different TV monitors in different homes, millions of homes, and they're catching the signal from the TV station, and every TV is playing the same thing, movie or whatever, news or whatever. In a way, yes, but in another way, if every TV, now we have so many channels, every TV playing different program at the same time. Of course, TV is not conscious, but Lord Vishnu is conscious. So this just to understand how it can work. And every form was Lord Vishnu, and every form was independent. Not just like Prabhupada explained, the sun reflection in the parts. That's what but each and every one of the forms Krishna assumed was fully Vishnu. We should discuss Srimad Bhagavatam daily as much as possible, and then everything will be clarified. For Bhagavatam is the essence of all Vedic literature. It was written by Vyasadeva when he was self-realized. Thus, the more we read Srimad Bhagavatam, the more its knowledge becomes clear. Each and every verse is transcendental. And this Prabhupada is giving pretty much maybe on the last day or a day before the last day. He's about to leave his body. Evam sakrit darshaja parabrahmatmano akhila yasya bhasa sarvamidam vibhati sacharacharam. Thus Lord Brahma saw the Supreme Brahman by whose energy this entire universe with its moving and non-moving living entities is manifested. He also saw at the same time all the calves and boys as the Lord's expansions. By this incident, Lord Brahma was able to see how Krishna maintains the entire universe in different ways. It's because Krishna manifests everything, that everything is visible. So he manifests it. Everything is his energy. Tvati kutukodad vrityas timitte ka dashendriya tadhamna bhudajastushnim purdevyantiva putrika. Then by the power of the influence of those Vishnu Murtis, Lord Brahma, his 11 senses, jolted by astonishment and stunned by transcendental bliss, became silent, just like a child's clay doll in the presence of the village deity. Now he understood who is Krishna. Brahma was stunned because of transcendental bliss, muyanti yata surya. In his astonishment, all his senses were stunned, and he was unable to say or do anything. Brahma had considered himself absolute, thinking himself the only powerful deity. But now his pride was subdued, and he again became merely one of the demigods. An important demigod, of course, but a demigod nonetheless. Brahma therefore cannot be compared to God, Krishna, or Narayan. It is forbidden to compare Narayan even to demigods like Brahma and Shiva, but to speak of others. So Brahmaji is a creator, but he is not equal to Narayan, and neither is Shiva. Of course, Shivratri day, night, people who are followers of Shiva or who don't have knowledge, they worship Lord Shiva like God, and he is ultimate, he's everything, he is Ananta, and this, and Shivlinga is Ananta. But that's not true. One who considers demigods like Brahma and Shiva to be on an equal level with Narayan must certainly be considered an offender. We should not equate the demigods with Narayan, for even Shankaracharya has forbidden this. Narayana paro avyakta. Also, as mentioned in the Vedas, Eko Narayana Sinna Brahma Neshana Shana. In the beginning of creation, there was only the Supreme Personality, Narayan, and there was no existence of Brahma or Shiva. Therefore, one who at the end of his life remembers Narayan attains the perfection of life. And even this, Lord Shiva himself has said that when he was preaching to Prachetas and at different times, that worship of Vishnu is, or worship of Narayan is the topmost. But people still make this mistake, and then they cannot attain the perfection of life. Of course, once they get the mercy of Lord Shiva, then at some time, if they have the right mood at some age, some lifetime, they can come in contact with devotees. It takes long time, very long. Okay, so next verse has long purpose. I want to stop here. See anybody has any questions or comments?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, one question. Prabhuji, in many Leelas, Krishna, Vishnu Roop is shown. So it creates a doubt that is it the Vishnu form is original one or the Krishna? Vishnu is coming from Krishna or Krishna is coming from Vishnu? Because many times Lord, whenever he gives his darshan, he goes back to Vishnu forms.
Well, here, because he had to give this knowledge to Brahmaji, and Brahmaji, because he deals with Lord Vishnu only whenever he goes to a Shvetadipa, so he only sees Lord Vishnu. So Krishna had to show him that all these Vishnu forms come from me. And there are a few pastimes later on also when Krishna was in Dwarka. So there also Mahavishnu, he basically clarifies who's the Supreme. And when we talk about Vishnu, if there is any doubt, then which Vishnu? Kshirodaksha Vishnu, Garbhodaksha Vishnu, or Karanadaksha Vishnu? Which Vishnu we are talking? So people don't understand this, but we should know. We know. When Brahmaji also says, Govindam Adi Purusham Tamah Bhajami. Bhagavad Gita says, Aham Sarvasya Prabhava. Mahaprabhu says, Ekela Ishvara Krishna or Sabhritya. Even Balram ji is Bhritya. Balram ji is a servant. So what to speak of all the Narayan forms? They're all in Vishnu Tattva, Vishnu category. But even in that category, Krishna is the supreme. Is it okay?
Thank you, Prabhuji. Yes.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll stop here. You all have a safe and wonderful day. Hare Krishna. Jai Shri Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.